Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rudy McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pressure is mounting on Israel to ease its assault on Gaza, with calls from the United States and Middle Eastern powers. United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Tel Aviv in Israel after talks with Arab leaders aiming to prevent the conflict from escalating further. After discussions in the United Arab Emirates and in Saudi Arabia, he emphasised the need to end hostilities in Gaza for regional normalisation with Israel. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden stated he had been working with Israel to encourage a reduction in attacks and a significant withdrawal from Gaza. Elsewhere, UN experts called for accountability regarding sexual violence against Israeli civilians during the October 7th Hamas attacks in Israel. They cited mounting evidence of rapes and genital mutilation. Hamas denies these allegations. Pope Francis has expressed concern about rising conflicts throughout the globe. While speaking to diplomats from 184 countries on Monday at the annual State of the World address, the Pope described the global situation as a third world war fought piecemeal. Condemning the military response that led to a full-scale war in Gaza, the Pope demanded an immediate ceasefire, the liberation of captives, and Palestinians' access to humanitarian supplies. He also urged for disarmament and a change in perspective on migration, citing humanitarian problems in Syria, Ukraine, Sudan, and in sub-Saharan Africa. Furthermore, the Holy Father underlined the significance of education, ethical technological progress, and inter-religious dialogue. He concluded by reminding everyone of the forthcoming Holy Year and the importance of God's compassion and peace in a world full of pain and misery. A pastor and 13 other Christians were killed in northeastern Nigeria when an Islamic terrorist group attacked a church on Friday, January the 5th. Residents said that Reverend Luka Levong of the Church of Christ in Nations was killed on church premises in Kwari Town, while 13 members of the same church were killed in their homes. According to Open Doors' 2023 World Watch List report, Nigeria recorded the highest number of Christians killed in the world in 2022. In December, the volunteer rescue organisation White Helmets reported over 160 attacks against civilians in Idlib by Syrian regime forces, Russian allies, and militias. Since the start of 2023, they've responded to 1,322 attacks in northwestern Syria. That's a 59% increase from the previous year. Most incidents involved warplanes, rocket launchers, and artillery. Christmas Day saw a family of 5 killed by Russian warplanes near Amanaz, and Syrian regime forces targeted a school in Sarmin, resulting in 1 death and 5 injuries. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, in 2023, 187 civilians, including 50 children and 28 women, were killed by regime forces' bombardment and gunfire, while Russian airstrikes caused 30 civilian deaths, including 8 children and 7 women. According to local media outlets in Myanmar, aerial strikes killed at least 15 people on Sunday. Bombs hit a village in Kampat Township in Tamu district around 10 o'clock in the morning. The Southeast Asian nation has suffered a series of political, social and economic crises and has descended into a spiral of violence since the 2021 military coup that overthrew the democratically elected government in the country. Thousands of people have subsequently been arrested or killed. In the United States, Bishop Robert Barron is calling on the faithful to oppose a move in Minnesota to legalize assisted suicide. The Winona Rochester bishop denounced the practice, which violates the Catholic Church's teaching on the sanctity of all human life. Bishop Barron urged Catholics to denounce this bill. He wrote on his Word on Fire website that the emphasis that contemporary culture places on bodily autonomy ignores the fact that intentionally killing an innocent life is never morally acceptable, regardless of the advantages that may supposedly be seen. In the United States, a federal appeals court has ruled that the world's largest international pornography website can be sued for uploading and distributing child sexual content in the US. Lawsuits were filed to sue xvideos.com and its parent company, Web Group Czech Republic, by a woman from California who was a victim of a sex racket. Initially, a lower court ruled that she couldn't sue the company due to jurisdictional issues, but the Ninth Circuit Appeals Court overturned the same and allowed the case to proceed. The suit was filed under the Transactional Victims Protection Act, which helps child sex abuse victims to sue companies that have benefited from the exploitation of children. A recently broadcast South Korean television series has angered Catholics for making a mockery of Christian values. In a weekly programme entitled Pilgrimage, the programme host was seen making fun of some precepts of Catholic education and throwing questions at a priest about Christian teachings on sexuality, marriage, and particularly pursuing chastity before marriage. The priest himself was firm in his reply that the Church opposes the exploitation of sex. Many have expressed their displeasure and their disapproval on social media platforms. Father Park Yun-ho, who is the director of the Catholic Institute of Bioethics, explained that for the Church, human life begins at fertilization, and that the Church views sexual intercourse as an act of love and unity of a man and a woman. After a decade, the doors of Mosul's clock church in Iraq have reopened. This significant religious and cultural landmark is once again celebrating liturgies, marking a pivotal moment in its restoration led by UNESCO. Mass was said on the church's altar for the first time since it was destroyed by the Islamic State of Iraq and of Syria. Father Gerard Francisco Timonier, who is the General President of the Dominican Order, presided over the Mass. The revival of this church and the resumption of religious ceremonies within it represents a pivotal moment in Mosul's journey towards reconstruction. As part of France's support for the ongoing restoration project, 3 bells crafted in the French city of Normandy have been donated to the church. The Latin Church of the Dominican Fathers stands as a testament to the rich religious and cultural tapestry of Mosul itself. Established in 1873, it has served as a focal point for the Dominican Fathers in this region, playing a pivotal role in shaping the Christian identity of the area. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the war in Sudan has displaced over 7.3 million people. The UN said this has become the largest child displacement crisis in the entire world. 25 million, which is more than half of Sudan's entire population, need humanitarian assistance. At least 5,000 have been killed since the conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces erupted in the country's capital city, Khartoum, in April last year. Last month, the Catholic bishops in Sudan urged the international community to intensify their efforts to stop the violence in the country. The National Sanctuary of Aparecida in Brazil welcomed close to 9 million pilgrims in 2023, marking a 10% increase from the previous year. The busiest day was the feast day of Mother Mary on October the 12th, with 112,000 devotees coming to the sanctuary. Originally established as a new basilica in 1955, the site was later designated as the National Sanctuary of Aparecida by the National Conference of Brazilian Bishops in 1983. Notably, both Pope St. John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI visited the sanctuary in 1980 and 2007 respectively. Additionally, Pope Francis visited the sanctuary during his trip to Rio de Janeiro for World Youth Day in 2013. Lawyers of the detained Hong Kong pro-democracy activist Jimmy Lai have filed an urgent appeal with the United Nations Special Rapporteur, stating that a crucial prosecution witness was subjected to torture by the Chinese government. The international legal team filed an appeal on torture and other cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment, forcing him to provide evidence that implicated the media mogul. Mr. Lai's lawyers claim that there is credible evidence that the former pro-democracy activist Andy Lee was subjected to torture in mainland China prisons before he confessed to plotting with Mr. Lai to work with foreign forces. Lee was one of 12 individuals detained by officials in August in 2020 on a boat that was reportedly headed to Taiwan. After Mr. Lai's trial is over, Mr. Lee will be sentenced for violating the national security law. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow for more, and do remember you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.